Okay, well I don't think you all needed me this morning, but anyway, Chris said it didn't seem like 2 weeks and he last rang me. Doesn't seem much like 2 weeks and he first rang me, but anyway. But, I think before we need to go any further we need to show our appreciation once more, not just to the children but also to Chris and his band of teachers for what they've given to us this morning, and to thank them for all the work that they've done throughout this last 12 months. So, okay, so 2 weeks today, and it will be Christmas Day. I wonder if you're all busy getting ready, writing your cards and buying all your presents. I wonder if anybody has got their Christmas tree up yet. Just a few. Somebody asked me the other night if I'd got our Christmas tree up. I said, yeah, it's up in the attic where it should be for a bit longer. But I did notice yesterday it has made an appearance while I was away. But I wonder if anybody who has their tree up, I wonder if anybody's got any presents under their tree already. Yeah? One or two, I've got a present or two under the tree. Well, I've brought a couple of presents with me this morning. I'll have this chair and I can leave out. I've brought this fine looking present. I brought this one that had a few issues when it was being delivered, you might say. So I've brought these two presents. I'm sure if someone presented these two gifts to us and maybe asked us to choose one, we'd probably be drawn to this one, wouldn't we? We'd drawn to the one that looked nice, nice and presentable, rather than the one that was a bit battered and broken, you might say. And as someone gives us a present, we'd maybe like to think that the outward appearance might have some bearing on what we might find inside. Maybe how it looked on the outside would have some bearing on what we might find on the inside. I wonder if anybody would like to come and have a look in one of these presents this morning. Oh heck, we've got an army. Okay. Well, if you have two of you, if you two come this time, and we'll have a look in this nice one first. So if you want to, what do you think? You take something out and see what there is. You pull it out. Is there? Oh, yeah, we've got a bit of packaging. Yeah, you don't have to keep pulling it out. No, a little bit more. You want to pull that bit out? Well, you give it a shake, isn't it? Well, nothing. It's a bit disappointing, isn't it? Oh well, we'll see. Or if the other two that had if you go and sit down again, the other two that had the hands up, you want to come and... Oh, we've got three. Oh well, you can all three come and have a look then. So we've got this one. Well, it doesn't look too great, does it? But you want to have a look? You'll have a look, see. And what I've got, you take out what? Pull this bit out first. Well, we had this, but we appear to have found something else. What have we got in here? If you shout and say what's in. Sweets. That's it, you shout. That's it. If you take one, then after the service you can all come and get another one. But don't eat them till you've had your dinner. So that's what we found in our boxes this morning. You know, the reality of on the outside didn't really represent what was on the inside, did it? You know, when we get a present and it's all nicely wrapped, if you watch the children, the first thing they do is rip it completely off, and what is on the outside just gets discarded. It gets screwed up in a bowl and thrown away. Or probably nowadays we're encouraged to place it in the recycling, aren't we? To be recycling. Or maybe you're one of these people who takes it off really carefully and irons it and folds it up and then use it again next year. I'm not sure if we've got any of those people here, but you know, the bit that we're interested in on a present is what's on the inside. We're not really bothered about what it comes in or what the outside looks like. You know, as we live our lives, you know, the bit that God is interested in is the same. You know, He's interested in the bit that's in the inside. And of course, there's a story in the Old Testament, in the book of Samuel, where God is choosing a king. And of course, we have a verse that we find there, which we read that although man looks on the outside, God looks on the inside. God looks at the heart. And that same verse in another version of the Bible says that men and women look at the face, but God looks at the heart. God is interested about what is on the inside. And our appearance maybe doesn't really reveal what we're really like inside. Fortunately for us, God doesn't judge us on our appearance. God judges on our character and on the faith which we have in Him. And because only He can see what we are really like on the inside, then there's only Him that can really and honestly judge us. And of course, people spend many hours each week, vast amounts of money, some people, to maintain, you might say, their outward appearance. And I'm sure you ladies are aware, and maybe some of you men as well. I don't want to be accused of discriminating against anybody this morning, but there's all sorts of lotions and potions and powders and creams that you can buy to continue to make yourself look as beautiful as possible. And I guess in a place there's nothing wrong with that. But maybe this morning, maybe we should be paying more time, paying more attention, maybe to developing what we're like on the inside rather to what we're like on the outside. Maybe improving the attitude of our own heart to becoming more like Christ. It's easy sometimes, isn't it, to put on a good front and maybe to look good on the outside. Maybe a bit like this present look this morning. It looks good on the outside, but of course inside there was nothing. And it's maybe easy to be like that. Maybe to look good on the outside, to put on a good front and show everybody that we're doing fine, when maybe on the inside, things maybe aren't quite as good as they should be. And maybe on the flip side of that, maybe it's possible to be dealing with all sorts of maybe outward problems, maybe bad habits or physical problems which we may have, and yet on the inside you can still be right with God. Maybe a bit like this present we had here. On the outside it looked battered and ripped, but of course inside there was something good. We may come this morning and we might feel a bit battered, we might feel a bit torn by the troubles and the worries of life. But if we're right with God, if we're right on the inside, He can use us and He can help us. And as I was thinking about that nativity story that the children showed to us this morning, many of the characters in that story were maybe far from perfect candidates to take part in God's great plan of salvation. In human eyes, they were maybe not worthy to be there. And yet God chose them. God chose all those people to take part in that great event. And, they were all faithful to what He asked them to do. They had a right heart, you might say. And, they were there at that time when Jesus came into the world. We had Mary, didn't we? Just that young girl who was engaged to be married and then finds herself expecting a child. And we have Joseph, her fiancé, just a simple carpenter. He was doing right. He was doing everything right by his wife. And now everything was just thrown into turmoil. In the world's eyes, they were a far from perfect family unit to bring up this special baby. And they would face much ridicule, even before Jesus was born. But, this is who God had chosen, and he chose to use them. And of course we have the shepherds. Of course in those days the shepherds were probably maybe the lowest of the low. They were often the dropouts, you might say, of society. And yet God chose to reveal to them that Jesus had been born. Just them simple, honest folk out on that hill. they wouldn't get into many modern maternity units nowadays, would they? Dressed as they were. You know, that night they were the baby Jesus' first visitors. You know, they were dirty, they were battered, their clothes were probably torn through working outdoors, and yet they were faithful in their hearts, and they were ready to receive what the angel told them. They received the message which the angel brought to them, that this baby had been born, and they acted on what they heard, and they went and found it just as the angel had said. And of course we have the wise men, those visitors from the east. You know, from the outside looking in, as it were, you know, what were the chances of those men travelling hundreds, thousands of miles and find Jesus exactly where he was? And I suppose, humanly speaking, in those days it would be fairly slim of them finding the baby Jesus. But of course, with God it was no problem. You know, he provided that star for them to follow, and of course they followed it most of the way, almost all the way. They followed that star, and maybe until they maybe took their eyes off it just for a moment, and of course they ended up in the wrong place. But of course God continued to guide them. And of course when they went, of course they encountered Herod, didn't they? Who maybe Herod this morning is a bit like this posh looking present here. You know, on the outside he maybe at first he looked fine. Of course he wanted to know where the baby was too, so he could go and visit it. But of course he had different motives to those wise men. You know, inside he was full of anger, he was full of hatred towards this new baby who had been born. And you know, God knew this, and of course he thwarted the plan to kill Jesus. And of course there was no room in the inn. And of course Jesus was born in a far from maybe perfect surroundings, you might say, for a new baby to be born. You know, once more he was born in the dirt and the grime of this world. You know, a far from perfect place, you might say. So this morning, as we have come and we've looked at these two presents here, you know, this morning I would feel, you know, it's better to be like this battered, ripped, broken present, and yet in our hearts to have received God's gift of Jesus for ourselves. You know, rather than maybe cutting on a good front like this other present. You know, looking that things are all right on the outside, whereas on the inside things are maybe far from right, and we haven't accepted Jesus yet into our lives. You know, there's a great verse, isn't there, in the Bible that says that God so loved the world that whoever believes in him shall not perish but shall have everlasting life. And you know, if you're here this morning, you and me, we're all whoever. We are all whoever. You know, whoever we are this morning, you know, God sent his Son for us. God sent his Son Jesus that first Christmas for each and every one of us. And you know, he came into this world, and he came for the broken and the battered and the ripped in society. He came for the least and the lowest and the lost, you might say. You know, those are the people he came to be with. Those are the people who you read about he spent most of his time with. You know, he hadn't much time for the people who look like this, the people who maybe classed themselves as religious and who thought they knew it all. You know, he came for the everyday person, you might say, people who had problems and people who had troubles. And you know, he still comes for those people today. You know, he still comes for those who have troubles and problems, and he's there to help us in those times of trouble. You know, we maybe come with our ripped and battered edges, you might say. You know, when we come to God like that, you know, he can change us, and he can mould us, and he can make us into the people that he wants us to be, and the people that he needs us to be, so we can work and use our gifts for him. You know, God can change us from the inside out, you might say. You know, he changes our inward appearance, and you know, that reflects on our outward appearance, and we can tell others and use that to share the message of Jesus with them. So this morning, Jesus, we're here, don't we, is the reason for the season. Jesus is the reason why we are here this morning, and Jesus is the reason why once again we celebrate Christmas time. We celebrate His coming to this earth, that great gift that was given. And so this Christmas I pray that each one of us might keep Him in His rightful place, that we might keep Jesus at the centre of all that we do this Christmas time, as we celebrate and as we share with friends and family, and we exchange gifts and presents. I just pray that each one of us will remember that greatest gift that was ever given. And as we remember these gifts this morning, it's not the outward appearance that matters. We need to be right on the inside, and we need to accept that gift that was given, Jesus into our hearts for ourselves, to accept Him as our own personal Saviour. So once again, I just thank you for inviting me this morning. Once again, thank you for the children for sharing their nativity with us. And we're going to close our time this morning. We're going to sing a carol again, and we're going to sing "Hark the Herald Angels Sing."